was no indication of a struggle. There was no indication of anything that was missing from the home or disturbed.
Shocking news from the high desert of New Mexico recently broke the internet, and it is not what anyone expected. Legend of the screen Gene Hackman lived a life of extreme privacy for over 20 years, but his passing in February 2025 opened a door that was supposed to stay locked forever. Federal agents and local authorities swarmed his 12-acre estate, and what they found in a hidden tunnel system beneath the adobe floors has left the industry and the public completely speechless. You are going to see how a simple maintenance check turned into a federal investigation that revealed items that were never meant to see the light of day. Hidden truths under the adobe. The high desert air in Santa Fe is known for being thin and dry, but in February 2025, it felt heavy with a mystery that would soon captivate the entire country. For decades, the legendary actor Gene Hackman had been a recluse, living in a fortified compound off Hyde Park Road. He had retired from the bright lights of Hollywood in 2004 and moved to New Mexico to find peace. But when maintenance workers entered the 12-acre estate after not hearing from the couple for weeks, they were met with a scene that looked like a still from a suspense movie.
It's not normal to find two people deceased in the residence. That's concerning. And then there was also a dog that was in a kennel that was also found deceased.
The remains of 95-year-old Gene Hackman and his 63-year-old wife, Betsy Arakawa, were discovered in separate rooms of their sprawling 13,000-square-foot residence. The dry climate had already begun to mummify the bodies, indicating they had been there for quite some time. For starters, then the authorities noticed something was off immediately, because there were signs of a struggle or at least a very hurried departure from certain areas of the house. Medications were scattered across the floor, and an external door stood wide open to the desert wind. But here is the catch. As the FBI and local agents began their sweep of the property, they realized the blueprints did not match the physical layout of the home. One room in particular seemed to have a floor that echoed differently than the rest of the house. When they moved a heavy antique cabinet in the art studio, they found a seam in the floorboards that led to a motorized hydraulic lift. This was not a standard feature for an adobe home built in the hills of New Mexico. Agents descended nearly 40 feet into the ground, finding themselves in a reinforced concrete passage that stretched far beyond the perimeter of the main house. The walls were lined with lead shielding, which is a massive red flag for anyone familiar with surveillance or radiation protection. This is a key detail because the Hackman estate is located in a region steeped in classified history. We are talking about an area very close to Los Alamos National Laboratory, where the Manhattan Project changed the world forever. The tunnels were not just storage rooms, but seemed to be designed for long-term survival and high-level privacy. Inside the first chamber, agents found rows of server racks and filing cabinets that were bolted to the floor. The crazy part is that many of the files were not about the film industry or Hackman's personal finances, but contained detailed maps of the American Southwest and various government installations, and that is putting it lightly. The investigation shifted from a simple welfare check to a matter of national security almost overnight. Authorities seized 2 cell phones and a 2025 calendar that had certain dates circled in red ink, with notations that nobody could immediately decode. There were also health documents from MyQuest that suggested a level of medical monitoring far beyond what a typical 95-year-old would receive. It is not that simple, though, because the more the agents looked, the more they realized that the tunnel was not just a bunker, but a hub. There were cables running even deeper into the earth, connecting to a system that seemed to bypass the local power grid entirely. And people in the gated community had always known Hackman was private, but nobody realized he was living on top of a subterranean fortress. The sheer scale of the construction would have required dozens of contractors and hundreds of hours of labor. Yet there were no public records of such work ever being done. This suggests that the work was performed by private crews under strict non-disclosure agreements, or perhaps even by people with military backgrounds. What most people do not realize is that the timeline of the discovery was also highly suspicious. Cell phone records later showed that Betsy Arakawa may have survived her husband by several days, despite both being found in advanced stages of decomposition. The question of what she was doing in those final hours while alone in that fortress is haunting. Was she trying to delete data, or was she waiting for someone to come for her? The agents found evidence that someone had accessed the tunnel system just 48 hours before the bodies were officially discovered. So here is the deal. We have a Hollywood legend living in a house that is essentially a listening post or a vault located in the most secretive part of the country. This first discovery was only the tip of the iceberg, and what they found as they moved deeper into the tunnel left everyone wondering if we ever truly knew who Gene Hackman was. Guarded luxury beyond reach. The Hackman estate was more than just a home. It was a statement of absolute isolation. Spread across 12 acres of rugged hilltop terrain, the compound offered a 360-degree view of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. For anyone looking from the outside, it was a beautiful example of high-end New Mexico architecture with its soft adobe curves and sprawling portals. But inside, the security was tighter than a federal prison. High stone walls surrounded the entire perimeter, and advanced motion sensors were hidden within the natural vegetation. Hackman had spent years and millions of dollars perfecting this sanctuary after he left the film world. The property included a main residence, a guest house, an art studio, a gym, a game room, and even a wine cellar that many now believe served as the cover for the tunnel entrance. Basically, one of the most overlooked aspects of this property is its geographic location. Santa Fe sits on a high plateau that has been the center of military and scientific interest since the 1940s. The proximity to Los Alamos means the ground is often surveyed for seismic activity and government sensors. Yet the Hackman tunnels managed to stay hidden for decades. Many are not seeing the truth here because they focus only on the celebrity aspect. But when you look at the proximity to rumored sites like the Dulce Base, a massive deep underground military facility, people start to ask different questions. Legend has it that the American Southwest is honeycombed with these deep underground military bases, or DUMBs, which are used for everything from black projects to sensitive transport. While many people are confused about why an actor would need a tunnel, the reality is that Hackman had a deep military history of his own. He served in the United States Marines as a radio operator, which gave him a fundamental understanding of communication and surveillance. This background might have played a larger role in his retirement than anyone previously thought. Everyone is obsessed with the fact that Hackman starred in the film The Conversation, which is about a surveillance expert who becomes obsessed with a secret. Some conspiracy theorists believe that life began to imitate art for the actor. The compound in Santa Fe was designed to be completely self-sufficient, with its own water filtration and power generation systems. The tunnel system discovered by the agents showed that it was reinforced against seismic events and possibly even atmospheric changes. One of the rooms found 40 feet down was a fully stocked medical suite, with equipment that appeared to be military grade. There were prescription records found that indicated treatment for advanced heart disease and Alzheimer's, but there were also medications that are not commonly used for those conditions. These drugs were often used in experimental treatments for cognitive enhancement or radiation sickness, which adds another layer of WTF to the entire investigation. Hands down, the most chilling part of the estate was the silence. Neighbors in the gated community reported that they almost never saw Gene or Betsy. They were like shadows. The few contractors who were allowed on the property were only permitted to work on specific above-ground areas and were always escorted. One landscaper mentioned that there were areas of the yard where the grass would never grow, and the ground always felt unusually warm. This is a common sign of underground machinery or large-scale electrical systems operating beneath the surface. The agents found that the tunnels were equipped with industrial-grade ventilation systems that were disguised as natural rock formations on the hillside. These vents allowed for fresh air to circulate deep into the ground while remaining invisible to the naked eye. As the agents followed the main passage, they noticed it began to slope downward at a much steeper angle, leading toward a massive iron door that looked like it belonged on a battleship. Subterranean shadow networks. When the agents finally forced their way through the massive iron door, the temperature dropped significantly. They were now nearly 300 feet below the surface of the New Mexico desert. The air down here did not smell like a basement. It smelled like ozone and old paper. The walls transitioned from concrete to smooth carved stone that looked almost melted, as if high heat had been used to create the passage. It is not that simple, though, because this part of the tunnel did not look like it was built in the 1990s. It looked much older. Among the items found in this deeper chamber were crates that bore markings from the 1950s and 60s. One crate in particular contained a German ledger dated 1947, which is the same year as the famous Roswell incident. And get this. The ledger was filled with names and coordinates that mapped out various sites across the Southwest. Some of the pages had been altered with faces cut out of photographs and replaced with symbols. These symbols were not recognizable as any modern language. Some researchers who have seen the leaked images suggest they resemble ancient runes or perhaps even scripts associated with the SS Ahnenerbe, which was the occult wing of the Nazi Party. This has led to wild theories that the tunnel system might have been part of an older network used during Operation Paperclip when German scientists were brought to New Mexico to work on the space program and nuclear research. The idea is that Hackman might have discovered this entrance when he bought the land and decided to secure it rather than report it. Or perhaps he was chosen to be the guardian of this site because of his military background and his ability to disappear from the public eye. What most people do not realize is that the tunnel did not end at the Hackman property line. It appeared to continue for miles, or heading straight toward the mountains. Agents reported hearing low-frequency hums that seemed to vibrate through the floor. This is a key detail because many people in the region have reported the Taos hum for years, which is a mysterious sound that nobody can quite explain. Some believe it is the sound of massive underground fans or machinery operating in secret government bases. The discovery at the Hackman estate provides the first physical evidence that these tunnels might actually exist and that they are connected to private residences. There were also several digital storage devices found in a sealed container that was labeled with a high-level security clearance. These drives were encrypted with technology that even the federal experts have struggled to crack. The crazy part is that the tunnel also contained a collection of historical artifacts that should not have been in private hands. We are talking about pieces of technology that look decades ahead of their time, including strange glass-like panels that glow when touched and metallic spheres that seem to defy gravity when placed on a flat surface. This sounds like science fiction, but the reports from the scene were consistent. The agents were speechless because they were looking at a combination of a Hollywood luxury home and a top-secret research laboratory. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that the FBI has now classified the entire lower level of the property as a restricted zone. They have set up a permanent perimeter and have been seen hauling out dozens of black trunks under the cover of night. Nobody expected this to happen to a man who was best known for his roles in Superman and The Unforgiven. What do you think was the most shocking item found in the secret tunnel beneath the desert? Do you believe the official story, or is there a bigger cover-up happening right now? Leave a comment below with your theory and make sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives.